everyone, welcome back to Alice and the Giant Bookshelf. Today's video is a birthday book haul, and I think the giant TBR is about to suffer. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. My name's Alice and I have way too many books. And just to add to the situation with the way too many books, I've recently had a birthday. And you may have already watched my video where I went to visit the bookshops of London. Of course, on a bookshop visit to London, I couldn't very well not buy books. And I did treat myself in that video to the 5 books over here. And since then, there has been another haul, which has been a birthday haul. And I thought I would show you the results of that. And it was an extremely bookish birthday. Extremely. And my wrap up will contain all the stats you need to know about how much the giant TBR has gone up. Oops. So first of all, let's look at a couple of things that won't add to the giant TBR. And I had 2 lovely bookish gifts from my best friend, who kindly sent me this lovely notebook covered in books, which I absolutely love. I think that's really beautiful, and it has a magnetic opening as well. Really nice lined pages, so I'm really looking forward to writing in that. I think that might be my next Booktube notebook. And very topically for Jane Austen July, my best friend also sent me this lovely gift, which is a Pride and Prejudice 252 piece double-sided jigsaw puzzle. So here it is, and it's double-sided because one side is this picture, like a book cover, and the other side, that should be fiendishly hard, is a page out of the book. So that's going to be tricky, it's just writing. But yeah, sounds really fun. So I'm really looking forward to doing this. And it is, by the time you watch this, it will be Jane Austen July. So I will be putting this together in Jane Austen July. Let me know in the comments down below if you want to see that in a video. And yeah, absolutely fabulous present from my friend. So thank you very much for that one. I will look forward to reading the book, doing the puzzle, and watching the adaptation hopefully in July. So next up we have the book haul. And I do believe there are 20 books in this stack of books. But luckily, they're not all getting added to the giant TBR, because a couple of the books will be rereads. They are books that I wanted to own my own copy of, and I'm really excited to collect them. But luckily, they don't add on to the giant TBR. But let's start with what my husband bought me. So in my video where we went to see the bookshops of London, one of the bookshops was Hatchard's, and my husband actually bought me my birthday gift from Hatchard's because I don't see these books very often in other bookshops, and they had such a wonderful Agatha Christie section. It was really big, and from that Agatha Christie section, my husband kindly bought me 3 Mary Westmacott books, which are the last 3 that I need to read. And then I would have read all of Agatha Christie's work, I believe, apart from her poetry and plays. Agatha Christie wrote some novels under the name of Mary Westmacott, and they were sort of more just straightforward fiction books, possibly even going into romance. And yeah, I've read 2 of them so far. I got 1 more for my birthday last year from my dad, and these are the last 3 that I need because she only wrote 6. So the first one is Absent in the Spring by Mary Westmacott, which I think is about someone who is returning from a trip to visit their daughter in Iraq, and they find themselves stranded in an isolated rest house by the flooding of the railway tracks. And I think this is it's not a mystery, so I think it's more about the reflection of the character rather than being mysterious, but I don't know. Haven't read it yet. And there are some lovely Hatchard's bookmarks with this as well. So the other two Mary Westmacotts are A Daughter's a Daughter. I believe this one is about a daughter trying to stop their mother remarrying and the consequences that that brings about. And the third and final one is The Burden. I think this is about the relationship of two sisters by the looks of the back. But again, I actually know comparatively little about these Mary Westmacott books, and I'm excited to keep it that way because I will enjoy reading all three of them. So thank you to my husband for buying me those lovely Mary Westmacott books on our trip to Hatchard's. Next up, we have some presents from my mum, and the first ones are a set of books that I've wanted to own for ages. I've spoken about them on my channel time and time again, and it was time I owned my own copies because last time I reread my mum's copies, so the copies that were also the copies she read to us as children, they were falling apart, so it was high time to own my own. And that is a full set of The Dark is Rising sequence, which is 5 books by Susan Cooper. If you haven't read this series, I urge you to check it out. I say that every time I talk about these books. So now I have my own copies to show off, and I'm definitely going to be rereading these soon because I absolutely love them. The first one is called Oversea Under Stone, and that's about the Drew family who go on holiday to Cornwall and they find an ancient map, and it's sort of a little bit Arthurian. It relates to a quest for a grail, and it's very, very exciting. The second book in the 5 is The Dark is Rising, the book that the whole sequence is named after, and this is about a character called Will, and this is where the series starts to become much more fantasy. Absolutely love this book. And every time I reread these, as I go through the series, I like each one more than the last, so I could never pick a favourite, I don't think. But the third one, Green Witch, is definitely a contender. This again involves the Drew family on their quest, and yeah, wonderful, wonderful book. Book 4 is The Grey King. It's still involving Will, still involving the overarching quest. It's just absolutely wonderful. And the final book, book 5 in the sequence, is Silver on the Tree. Oh, it's just brilliant. It's just so good. So if you haven't encountered the Dark is Rising sequence, I think you should. I think it's time. But I'm not adding them to the giant TBR, but I am definitely due a reread of them very, very soon. My mum has also kindly bought me 2 other books. One was a second-hand one that I've been looking out for, and that's Hamlet by Maggie O'Farrell. I think that was not necessarily a birthday present, just my mum picked it up in her local charity shop for me, so that will save me borrowing it from my mum, and I can't wait to read Hamlet because I've not read it yet. I'm hoping to read this in September for Shake-tember. And I'd like to read this in conjunction with Hamlet as well. So my plan is to read Hamlet and Hamnet, and if you would like to read those with me, do let me know in the comments down below, because I would love to have company. The other book my mum has bought for me is one that I really, really wanted when it came out, and she's bought it for me, and that is Write It All Down by Cathy Rentzenbrink. If you've watched my channel before, you'll know my favourite book of last year was Dear Reader by Cathy Rentzenbrink, a book that I absolutely can't stop going on about because I love it so much. That is Cathy Rentzenbrink's memoir of reading, and this is Cathy Rentzenbrink's, I think, advice about how to write a memoir and how to write down all of your thoughts. So I'm really looking forward to this. I do enjoy writing and I haven't done so for a long time, so I'm looking forward to reading Cathy Rentzenbrink's book and seeing what she has to say about how to do writing. And it has beautiful, beautiful end papers and lovely cover, so very, very pleased with that. Also a bookmark of Great Circle, and You Have a Friend in 10A, which is exciting too. The next few presents are from lovely Booktube friends. Thank you so much for everything that everybody has sent me. So kind of you. The first one is a book that one of my Booktube friends was unhauling and said they would send to me. It's from Charlie over at Charlie Brook, and Charlie Brook has sent me The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. I was listening to this on audiobook and found it very, very hard to make head or tail of, and if you've read this book, I expect you will understand why it would be difficult as an audiobook. So it's really, really kind of Charlie to send me her copy of the physical book so that I can actually find out about this book at last. And Charlie has also very, very kindly sent me 2 lovely little Penguin Classics, a Penguin Classics and a Penguin Modern, and I love these little tiny books, they are so cool. This one is Arthur Conan Doyle, lot number 249. And it says, from the master of the detective story and creator of Sherlock Holmes, the first ever tale to feature a supernatural Egyptian mummy. So that sounds very cool and might be a good one to read in October in spooky season. The other one, I haven't actually heard of this, but it sounds really cool, and that's The Master's Tools Will Never Dismantle the Master's House by Audra Lorde. And it says on the back, from the self-described black lesbian mother warrior poet, these soaring urgent essays on the power of women, poetry and anger are filled with darkness and light. So that sounds really, really interesting too. I like a good essay and I love a good poem, so this will be really interesting to read. I believe these were written in the 70s and 80s, so interested to find out what they are all about. Thank you so much, Charlie, for sending me those lovely books. And the next book that I was sent, these next 2 are from the lovely Emily over at Novelle Novels. She has sent me my own copy of Great Circle, which I'm very, very happy with because I listened to this one on a Libby audiobook, and so I didn't have a copy, and I'm absolutely... To be honest, I could reread this again already, even though I only read it a couple of months ago. I just absolutely loved this book and I'm delighted to own my own copy at last. And Emily has also very kindly sent me a copy of Agnes Gray by Anne Bronte. I have plans to read this in Victober, hopefully with Nikki from Red Dot Reads, so I am so delighted to own my own copy. I've got this book out of the library I think more times than I've got any other book out of the library, and I've still yet to read it, so can't wait to actually read this now I have my own copy. So thank you so much, Emily, for sending me that as well. And my lovely friend Gemma over at Gemma Books has also sent me presents very, very generously, and she sent me August Town by Kai Miller, a novel, and this sounds really, really interesting. Both Gem and I have recently read Kai Miller's essay collection, Things I Have Withheld, which was shortlisted for the Jalak Prize this year. Sadly, it didn't win, but having read that, I really, really want to read more Kai Miller. I know he's a poet as well as a novelist, so I'm really interested to try this novel. It's set in Jamaica. It sounds very complicated from the blurb, and the blurb is very long, so I'm not going to read all of it, but it does sound absolutely fascinating. I think it's about a character called Ma Taffy and her 6-year-old nephew, and about her telling stories to him. Maybe, but I will read it and find out. So really excited with this one. And Gemma has also very kindly sent me a book for a buddy read that Gemma and I are planning to do with Fraser Simons from Springboard Thought. And yeah, we're going to be reading this in August, and I think Gemma was quite delighted to get me this because it's even bigger than Don Quixote. Clocking in at 1,276 pages, including the notes, we have The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas. I haven't read any Dumas yet. I know he is Beki over at Teacup the Storyteller's favourite author, and yeah, thought we'd start with a small one, you know? So hopefully this won't take me a year to read like Don Quixote did, but I am a little bit nervous about the fact that it's even longer, which would make it the longest book that I have ever read. Hoping I can keep up with Fraser and Gem during our buddy read, but we will see. So this will actually be, I think this will actually be the first French novel that I've read. That will be very exciting. But I have heard that this is an amazing book, and yeah, I can't wait to read it. It's a lovely Penguin Classics edition, and I'm really, really thankful that Gemma has sent me this. Thank you, Gem, for that gift. Next up, we have 2 more books from another lovely, very kind booktuber, Ange, over at Ange's Book Chatter. And Ange has bought me a book which I've been really, really interested in since seeing it on the Booktube prize list. I can't actually remember if this is still in the running for the Booktube prize. If it's not, it got knocked out in the quarterfinals. But this is The Trees by Percival Everett. And this is about a series of brutal murders in Mississippi. There's a really strange puzzle about these murders because at each crime scene there's a second dead body, which is a man resembling Emmett Till, who was a young black boy who was lynched in the same town in Mississippi 65 years before. So these are thought to be obviously retribution killings, and it's discovered that murders that are similar are taking place all over the country. So I thought this sounds like a really fascinating read, and I'm looking forward to getting to this one. So I'm really, really pleased that Ange has bought me this one. And perhaps I can read it with Ange as well, because she showed it in her recent haul video too. And Ange also bought me, thank you so much Ange, this gorgeous copy of The Bookshop book by Jen Campbell. I've wanted to read this for so long because I read Weird Things Customers Say in Bookshops by Jen Campbell and the sequel years ago, and I've really, really wanted to read this, which I believe is Jen Campbell's non-fiction book all about all of the wonderful bookshops of the world. You know, I absolutely love a book about books or bookshops, so I can't wait to read this one at some point soon. And the final book is actually my birthday treat to myself, which I bought before all of these books. It had been sent to me and I hadn't opened it because it was supposed to be a birthday treat. So I have bought this directly from the author, and that is Villager by Tom Cox. This is Tom Cox's first novel. I have hugely enjoyed his works of non-fiction. It's particularly the books that got me into his non-fiction were his books that are predominantly about cats, such as The Good, the Bad and the Furry, Talk to the Tail, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, all absolutely fantastic. And I think his first one was called Under the Paw. I also really enjoyed his non-fiction about nature, 21st Century Yokel and Ring the Hill, and also Notebook, which I read more recently. And Tom Cox has also written a book of short stories called Help the Witch, which I read last year, and it was absolutely fantastic. So this is his very first novel, Villager, and I can't wait to read this. I think it should be very different. Tom Cox's books are usually quite quirky and eccentric, and I say that in a very affectionate way because I love things that are quirky and eccentric. So there's a quote on the back here that is about this book, and it says, "A joyous tumble of animism, love, music and mystery that beautifully balances awe and irreverence. Villager left me with a sense of an ancient longing that is hard to shake off." I think this is about all sorts of things, and I think it will be a little bit spooky and a lot about nature, and I think it will be fantastic. It's signed by the author, which is really cool, and also got this postcard with a map of the village that is in it, and this map postcard was drawn by Tom Cox's dad, Michael Cox, and I really enjoy his drawings as well as the lino prints that his mum usually does that illustrate his books. So I think this will be a really fascinating novel, and that was my present to myself. Yeah, that is a lot of books. 20 books, that's the biggest book haul I've ever had on Booktube. That has probably definitely destroyed the giant TBR numbers, but who cares? It was my birthday, and you can't have a birthday without books. There are 6 of these that are not going onto the giant TBR because I've read them before, and the rest we will have to add, and I'll let you know the numbers in the next video. So if you've enjoyed my book haul today, please do give it a like. Please do consider subscribing if you haven't already. Thanks for watching today. Please do comment down below if you've read any of these books, if there are any you think I should prioritise. And I do hope you'll join me again soon for another video all about books here on Alice and the Giant Bookshelf. Bye for now.